governments, the graduate assembly. The graduate students hold this building for their activities and events.
Yes, I mentioned that you were kind of the liaison with the student government.
Right. I was the director of the ASUC. Long ago and far away. This is actually the building in which my academic department is located. This is Barrows Hall, and the Department of Political Science is on the second floor. This is truly one of the ugliest buildings on the campus. And there were many protests when it was being constructed because it was such a blot on the campus. But now, when you say some of the other buildings that we built, people think this is a charming building. One of the reasons why the Regents chose this area for the campus was because there's a giant aquifer under the mountains that rest behind the campus. And there are many streams that run from that aquifer all the way to San Francisco Bay. This is the largest of those streams. It's called Strawberry Creek, and this is only one half of it. It's a branch of the creek which flows year-round. During the winter, it's raging because there's, when it rains, it fills up as a watershed. But most of the time, it's a gentle stream like this, and students like to go along the banks at various locations where there's grassland or shady trees and just sit and study while they are listening to the water go by. We started at the Student Union, but this was the original. These two buildings were the original student unions, built by the students with their money. This was the original Eshelman Hall, and this is where student activities occurred. And this was Stevens Union, named after a beloved English professor who worked closely with students at the turn of the 20th century. And it's now Stevens Hall, and this is the home of the Department of Philosophy, Moses Hall. But these were and that was the original Sproul Plaza, that little space between those two buildings. Yes. So if you can imagine, when we only had 12,000 students total, that was the gathering place. But today we have 27,000 undergraduates and another almost 10,000 graduate students. So this would not quite work.
And then another, 1,000 in staff and faculty?
Well, we have another 1,500 faculty and staff, and then we have probably another 10,000 staff.
So you got over 40,000 people wandering around here during the peak.
Yeah. Peak times. Let's walk up the city.
You now can know each other. It's so many people.
So I told them that you went to school here.
I did.
And went to school here, and went to school here.
I
and
did.
Worked here, and worked here, and worked here, and then became a professor here.
One day they're going to put a rock right here and put my name on it.
I'm sure they will.
So this is one of my favorite trees. This oak tree is what covered this entire area in the early part of the 19th century, when this was formerly Native American land. It became a Spanish land grant, and after it became a Spanish land grant, it eventually passed when the United States took California from Mexico during the Mexican War. Became part of the United States. But these oak trees date back to the 19th century. When I was teaching political science classes that were small, in the spring I would come outside and we would sit underneath this tree, and I would sit near the tree and they would sit below me, and so I could teach out there because it was so beautiful. But now I teach a lecture course of 100 students, so that wouldn't work. But this is just a very lovely area. That building straight ahead is Morrison Hall. which is the Department of Music. Berkeley is famous for music composition, while its sister campus in Los Angeles, UCLA, is famous for music performance. So if you're interested in becoming a member of an orchestra or a singing group or a thing, most likely you'll go to UCLA, even though we have them here at Berkeley. But if you want to write music, if you want to understand its history, or you understand its philosophy, you'd come to Berkeley. I'm going to walk through this little grove here. It's one of my favorite places on campus. It's just so peaceful.
Lots of squirrels, lots of wildlife.
It's like we're in a park.
Yes, it is. In fact, the last master plan of the campus was called Buildings in a Park.
Okay.
So these are, of course, California redwood trees. They will continue to grow for hundreds of years, and they'll get very much larger than this. But they're among the natural flora that we have in this area. And again, you can see strawberry trees. Yeah. He's waiting for someone to feed him, is what he's waiting for.
He looks very well fed.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this area is known as Faculty Glade. That building right there is the Men's Faculty Club, or its actual name is the Faculty Club. In an era before women were admitted to the precincts of faculty, the club was built around 1900 for male faculty who couldn't find housing because it was so scarce in this area. Subsequently, and just beyond it, is a beautiful wooden building which is the Women's Faculty Club. They have relationships that are reciprocal between them these days, but they're known for different types of venues. The little building straight in front of us is a beautiful bar. And oftentimes they private faculty and graduate students, and someone is sitting down and enjoying cocktails before dinner. I'll be there next Tuesday at 4:30 having cocktails with a fellow alum, and it's a very lovely place. Up until the end of Prohibition, it was illegal to sell alcohol within 1 mile of the college campus. So that was the only place where alcohol could be sold within a mile of the campus. And if you go down College Avenue, Telegraph Avenue, or University Avenue, you will find at exactly 1 mile liquor stores and a bar, because that's where students would flock to, and they had to go all that distance in order to get there. This is the back side of the student union. It was designed this way so that the faculty and the students would be just across the glade from each other. This statue is a testament to sports in America. This gentleman was known as Pappy Waldorf. His name was Lynn Waldorf, and he was a American football coach at Berkeley from 1947 to 1955, and he took the Cal football team to one of the most iconic athletic events in the United States, the Rose Bowl, which is played in Pasadena on January 1st, 3 straight years. And so his former players donated the money to build this statue to commemorate him, because his office used to be that room at the very top, at the very end of the building upstairs. And they thought it would be appropriate to have him in a location where he could always see his office.
Can we take a picture?
Yes, go ahead, please. Pappy never looks so good. And again, you can see these California scrub oaks are all over the hills here. Mm-hmm.
Like really different. Just trains.
By the way, feel free to stop me at any point and ask questions. Don't be shy. Once again, here is Strawberry Creek, or one of the branches of it.
I never get tired of taking pictures of the Campanile.
Neither do
no
I.
matter what.
I took 2 before you came.
So I was telling them about Oski, and then it occurred to me I don't know how Oski got his name.
Okay. So we'll stop right here for a moment. And I'll tell you the story of Oski. In 1895, the track team, which represented the university in athletics and track and field, was invited to go back east and compete against the best colleges and universities in the East Coast. And they had never done that. In 1895, California was thought of as the backwater of the United States, a rural place that people heard about but didn't know very much about. So we sent our track team, but all we had were colors. In the 1880s, 2 undergraduate women had selected the blue from Yale University's colors, Yale blue, and gold to represent the Golden Gate and the California Golden Poppy. And so our university colors became blue and gold. But we didn't have a mascot. And so the students in 1895 took the bear, it's a walking bear, off of the California state flag, since we were the University of California, and put it on a blue and gold flag, which they had made. They took a photograph and then they went back east. Lo and behold, they swept all of the teams back east. They came back as conquering heroes, and the students decided that they must be golden bears. And so that's where our mascot came from. For a number of years, they even had live bears that represented this mascot, but it was very unwieldy. And then in 1944, 1944, a young man from a college in Southern California transferred to Berkeley, and he was incredibly shy. I met him several times. He could never look girls straight in the face. He became a decorated war hero as a fighter pilot, but he couldn't look girls straight in the face. So what he did was he created this mascot uniform, which had no mouth, only eyes, and he could pantomime his relationship with anybody, including girls, which he couldn't do face to face. And they took a name from a term that had been coined at the University of Illinois for the football, the Oski. And that became his nickname. And so for 75 years, in fact, this next Saturday, we will be celebrating Oski's 75th birthday on campus. He's going to have a huge birthday party, and he will be the center of attention, and all the children will rush to take pictures with him, and so on and so forth. And he's been a perennial sophomore, which means he's a little on the irascible side. Gets into trouble, but he's also very charming, and so he's been our mascot for all these years.
And this speaks to how much of a fixture Nat is on the campus. When he retired from his administrative role, Oski came to his party. And Oski doesn't go to everybody's party, let me tell you that.
It's very nice of him to do that.
And in fact, the Cal Band came.
That's right, with my son in it. This is Sather Tower. Until the middle of the 20th century, it was the 3rd tallest building in the United States.
Wow.
And it was built to be an icon, so that the University of California would have a symbol that people could recognize anywhere in the world. And it has served that function admirably. You'll see that on this south face, there is a bust of Abraham Lincoln. And that's in honor of the fact that the Morrill Act was signed by him, which created the Land Grant College Act and was responsible ultimately for Berkeley's creation.
Do you have time for us to take them up to the tower?
Let's see if they, yep, let's see if it's open. I'm not even really sure. And of course, not.
So I will get all of us in here.
This is the Campanile Esplanade. Students also have to come here and just sit down and read and relax. When we have campus graduations, many of them host receptions here for their parties. In fact, when I got my doctorate, my family had a little reception for me just around the corner here. This portion of the Esplanade is dedicated to John Galen Howard, who was the architect who designed all of these large, impressive classical buildings on the campus. And it's the largest collection of Beaux-Arts architecture in the United States. Of course, if we went to Paris, Paris would be one giant piece of Beaux-Arts architecture, but this is the American version of it. Should we wait a little longer?
Continue. I'm just crowdsourcing a little bit of cash. They don't take credit cards.
These trees are designed the way they are because during the spring and the summer, they form a roof, a canopy that covers this entire area. You can still see it's shading here, but it's coming to fall now. We've just passed the first day of fall. And so the leaves will all fall off, and by the time we get to the middle of winter, they will be completely leafless. But during the summer, it's a beautiful respite from the heat.
Thank you so much. I will pay you back.
The canopy of these trees. They're plane trees. Now, if you look to your left, this is the entire science corner of the campus. The Department of Chemistry, the Department of Physics, the Department of Physics, physical phenomena. Computer science is in this large building and further on, all engineering, mining, technology, this whole sector of the campus. And to be fair, this is where Berkeley gets most of its federal money these days, because we are the #1 research university in the United States, and among the top, well, some people would say the top research university in the world. And we get about $400 million a year from the federal government to pursue various research projects which fund our faculty. And then on the hill, we have the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory, which is where the hydrogen and atomic bomb were developed. And we used to control also the Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, which that work continued to do and is now separate from the campus. But the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory and of course our engineering sector are still woven together. So our faculty often have joint appointments at both locations. Shall we go in?
We're good. So you faculty person get in free.
Oh,
so
wow,
win.
amazing.
So this is your ticket.
Oh, thank you.
You get the cheap tickets.
Thank you.
All right, guys, here you go.
Thank you.
Let's see if they have, well, they don't have the flag here anymore. They used to have the Golden Bear flag here.
Yeah.
But they've moved it since that time.
I thought so, yeah. All right.
For years, this elevator was run by a wonderful older gentleman who had postcards from all the people who had ridden on this, who sent him cards of towers. And so when you went inside the elevator, there were nothing but postcards with towers from all over the world. But he retired and then later passed on, and the cards were taken down. But I can remember very often coming in and seeing all the cards that folks had sent to him from around the world. One of the interesting aspects of this clock is we had an old clock tower that was in the old university library, which was right behind where we're standing. They tore it down to build the physics building, which was a tragedy. It was the old university library. And good morning.
Trying to get your ticket?
Oh, yes. There you go. Thank you, Jill.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. You can't come here and not go up if the tower's open.
Here you go.
Okay.
So one of the elements of this clock tower is the old mechanism that ran the clock tower that was in the old library. So when we get out of the elevator, you'll get to see that. So it's still part of
the best known landmark of the Berkeley campus is the Sather Tower, better known as the Campanile. It was a gift of Mrs. Jane K. Sather, an early benefactress of the university. The tower rises majestically to a height of 307 feet and is surmounted by a carillon of 61 bells. The first 12 bells were installed when the tower was completed in 1917. 36 were added in 1979, a gift from the class of 1928. The final 13 were given in 1983 by Jerry and Evelyn Chambers, devoted alumni of the university. The bells are played 3 times a day. Their music is a much-loved tradition. We welcome you to the university and hope you enjoy the inspiring view from the tower.
Nice.
So when you go upstairs, you can see the old mechanism that came from the old university library and its clock tower, which used to be there. It's been about a year or two.
So the only way to get up here is by elevator.
Yes.
Take the stairs.
Yes. This is the memorial to the class of 1928 that gave the money for the next 36 bells that were added to the original 12.
Continue on up.
These are very. I lost my train. Wow.
So if you can imagine, here is Evans Hall. There's the engineering building. Beyond it is computer science. Here is geography. And there's Hearst Mining. So these are part of the science part of the campus. And by the way, just where that large brown building is that I said is computer science, that's the edge of the campus. So in reality, the campus is actually very small by comparison to others that have entered in the UC system since. But we also have land that goes all the way up into the hill. Over there on the other side. It's awesome. So there is the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory up on the hills. And at the very, very top is the Mathematics Institute and the Lawrence Hall of Science. And this continues to be all part of the science portion of the campus. That round building over to my right is California Memorial Stadium, which is where the American football football games are played.
Tell me about how the old stadium is being pulled apart because the fault line lies
Yes.
right underneath it.
The fault runs right through the stadium, right through that field, all the way through the edge of campus into the Berkeley Hills, all the way to the bay over there. It's part of the Hayward Fault. That sea that you can just barely see in the middle of the hill, the yellow sea at the top of the hill, that was built by students in 1900 in a driving rainstorm to commemorate that this was the University of California, the Big C. And we have a fight song that's written in honor of that.
And every time a football touchdown is scored,
There is a platform in those trees right there with a large cannon, and it fires every time the Cal football team scores these points, which are called touchdowns in American football.
Close our ears. Close our ears.
Now that is not the big bell. Because if they played the big bell, we would all go deaf. The big bell, which is over there, is called Ursa Major. And on the side of it is a walking bear that faces the constellation Ursa Major in the sky, which is the bear, right? So the golden bear communes with the great bear in the sky. This is a good view, one that you can appreciate. There is Telegraph Avenue. Remember when we were standing at the Student Union? Right there? That was the dirt road that came from what is there, downtown Oakland. And in those days, this was all open land, and that was just a dirt road. You can get a good sense of the campus. There is the building I told you was so ugly, Barrows Hall. And there's the faculty club, which we walked by. That building that looks so ugly, which is truly ugly, is Worcester Hall, the College of Environmental Design.
architecture.
Yes. And it was designed that way to show its students all the elements of architecture. And so, even though we think of it as ugly, they think of it as beautiful. And once again, you see the pool there. Just beyond that building is the edge of the campus again. Now we own buildings beyond that. Those high-rises are student dormitories, which the university owns. But the formal edge of the campus is just beyond that building where the pool is. And where you were standing, there is the student living complex of today. And we'll end up there so you guys can go to the student living store and buy all the gear.
The dome there is the international house.
Yes, a gift of the Rockefeller Foundation. The Rockefellers were very famous industrialists who owned America's first and greatest oil company, Standard Oil.
Everyone knows Rockefeller.
Yeah, you know
Yeah.
Rockefeller.
This is the penultimate view.
The city of San Francisco, the Golden Gate,
Yeah.
San Francisco Bay.
Yeah.
Now, if we were here 10,000 years ago, 11,000 years ago, there would have been 1 mile of ice that covered this whole area all the way out into the Pacific Ocean. Before that, there was a giant valley with a river running through it, and you could go walk through what is now the bay, all the way to what is now the Farallon Islands. But after the Ice Age, a giant inland lake burst and completely transformed not only the bay, but the melting ice filled Pacific Basin. And so now we have a bay where there was once an island. The campus was designed to look straight through the Golden Gate, so you can see where we're standing is virtually straight through the San Francisco Bay entrance.